Ahoy there, crew! This is your captain speaking, and I've been neglecting my art on a more technical level for a while now. There are things I know I like more visually that I don't really do because I forget or I get stuck in those same old routines. But today I'm changing that and figuring out what I want to do with my style, so I thought, why not bring you along for the ride? But before I talk about the elements I'm going to be playing around with, let me introduce the artwork I'll be reworking. I selected a portrait so that there's not too much surface area to work with. As for our character, I'll be drawing the design I made for Aquarius in another video. I really like how she ended up and wanted to draw her again. She's a little bit nervous right now, just like me, but ready nonetheless. Now for the part a lot of people dread, the line art, there is something specific that I already know that I like, but playing around with other ideas won't hurt. For this part, I mostly used vector layers. Clip Studio Paint allows you to convert vector lines into different brush textures after drawing them, as well as change the width of different parts of the lines. It doesn't end up looking exactly the same as when you draw it by hand. It's like it carries over the texture, but it does it too evenly, so it looks a little weird. I still used it since drawing the line art 5+ times will get a little boring for the both of us. In the end, I have a few line art versions, but I think the super thin textured ones look the best with how I draw characters, especially when I adjust the width in some parts with the vector tools. This is one of the things I was talking about when I said there are already details I know I like. It also refers to the use of a textured brush. I just really like the look and feel, so I'll stick to the brush I've been using. I do prefer the thinner line art, but thicker lines do still have their use cases. More cartoony pieces will probably look nice with thicker lines, and profile icons will benefit from it too. Since they're displayed so small, thicker lines will make the line art more visible. But there's more to line art than the texture and the brush. It needs to have its own color. I had a method I used pretty consistently, but I don't really like it as much anymore. What I would do is pick a dominant color in the piece and make it pretty dark and desaturated and use that for the line art. But I think there are so many more ways to make the line art pop. So I tried playing around with lighter line art and used blending modes. It makes a pretty big difference. It also helps that I've been wanting to make my art look brighter, and this method really helps with that pretty reliably. I'm not done yet though. The last thing I want to test on the line art is if it looks better when each colored part has its own line art color. I already have a little hunch on the answer. This is already something I did with my VTuber model, but I want to be able to compare this method with the others. It is much more time-consuming, but it might just look the best. We'll have to compare the final rendered versions though to know which one looks the best for sure. I don't really have anything to note when it comes to the colors I chose, so let's move on to the shading. I have a rendering style I already like, just like with the line art, but there are some aspects I want to play around with again. The first option is of course the ideal shading version. This is how I'd like to render my pieces for the most part, but I wanted to test out something simpler again. That is just using a multiply layer and an add glow layer for shading and highlights. It's simple, but I actually quite like it. It could work better for animations or comics if I decide to make any in the future. I also have something a bit harder I want to try out that is a more painterly style without line art. I didn't know what I was doing, so I feel like it ended up a bit bland. It looks like I gave up halfway, which is probably true because I had no idea what I was doing or where to even start. So this definitely won't be the style I continue drawing in, at least not for now. I might approach it a little differently in the future. This is the version I ended up liking the most compared to my usual style. It's sort of similar, just with a bit more polish to the rendering and different colors for line art. It looks so much softer and cozier, I love it. Some of you might want to see the other combos I came up with though. Just keep in mind that I might have messed up some compared to how I intended for them to look. I saved them after I was done with everything and my layers weren't very organized. I'd like to know if there is a specific version that sticks out to you down in the comments though. But that's all for today, crew. Be sure to like and subscribe so we can set sail together again soon. Bye bye!